Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to The Division 2. And today, I'm back with another dev stream recap. You may be wondering, what was this dev stream for? What was the central topic? That is a great question. I actually wrote as the title for my notes here, Random July Dev Stream, but the team basically acknowledged as much. They said that they really liked the format that the dev notes stream took for Year 8 Season 2 before that launched, and so they want to try and more often go live without this huge prepared script, just talk about some current issues, some current thoughts, current ideas, and basically just connect with the community more. So there were some very interesting details here, but just note that this was not like a huge announcement stream, if you will, but I wanted to cover it nonetheless because, as I said, there are some key details and updates in this. So we were joined by Leo, one of our community developers, Yanish, our creative director, as well as Steve, who is a first-time guest here on the stream. Steve's title is that of live producer. He said a live producer works on making the experience smooth and enjoyable for players, so he deals a lot with server stability, pressing issues, cheaters, all of that. Basically the health and safety of the game, as he put it. So there were a variety of different topics covered here. As always, those will be timestamped down below, but let's get right into it. So they began by briefly talking about the ongoing Dust Storm event. They said so far, on their end, the feedback has been great, much more positive compared to that of the Cherry Blossom event last season. They said that each of these major seasonal events they've done has been an iteration on the last that began with Halloween last year, and Yannick said we're now about to close that loop when we get back to Halloween of this year. So I'll be very curious to see what they do with that, how they continue to push the formula forward. And again, just talking in details about the Dust Storm event, they said that they took the Ronin exploit that was there back during Cherry Blossom as inspiration to create the Raging Storms that we saw here, allowing for much more chaos and fun in the gameplay. But yeah, that was just a very short section at the start. They then moved on to talk about bugs and maintenance in the game. Steve took a lot of charge here as this is very much his area. He confirmed, if you had not realized already, that the default maintenance window that they do now is 5 hours. That has been reflected in the past several downtimes they've done. And he said that that is because it is a long process that they have to test and deploy every update that they push live. He used the Theo Parnell progression blocker issue that we had last week as an example. He said that of course you have to take the servers down, you have to kick anyone who was still online. They then had to go through and test the Warlords campaign on all 3 available platforms, and not just the Theo mission, but before that point, after that point, and then only once they're sure that the fix is actually working correctly, then they can go back live. That said, they also mentioned that when we get a longer than anticipated maintenance, that is a sign of the process working, because that means that they've discovered an issue that would otherwise be there if they were just to launch right back into live. That said, they acknowledge that it's not always going to be perfect. There's still some random issues that can pop up between what they have in the testing environment versus the live environment. Then they shifted focus to talk about the bug reporter, as well as some pressing issues that I know a lot of you will care about to hear these updates for. But as far as the bug reporter, they really wanted to underscore its importance in their process. They said that they have weekly meetings set up on Tuesdays. They had one earlier today to discuss the most upvoted issues that week on the bug reporter, how they can go about tackling those. And so the real call to action that was given was to continue using this tool, and that includes not only creating reports but also upvoting other ones that you find that you've experienced, contributing to those ones by posting screenshots, evidence, etc. And in case you do not have the link for this, it is in the description of each and every one of my videos via the Division's link tree. But as I said, they then went on to talk about some specific issues, including the audio bug, which they acknowledge is very annoying. They said that they have been investigating this for quite some time, where your LMGs, rifles, and more just end up being silent. They did say that they've identified this as a legacy bug, and it has been addressed for the upcoming August 11th patch. And while they stated that tests are still ongoing for that fix, Steve said that we should see significant improvements with audio come that patch. So I can't wait. That is definitely one of my biggest pet peeves in the game right now. They also then talked about the PlayStation 5 graphics degradation issue. Steve said that this is a memory issue across both of the PlayStation builds. He did say that an improvement went live with Year 8 Season 2.2 the other week, and so you should already be able to see some improvements on your end in terms of the duration of a play session before you'll start seeing issues occur. Once again, though, they highlighted the importance of posting these issues to the bug reporter, because each ticket that you submit on there allows them to then look into your specific account for the backend info, including what activities you were doing when this occurred, the duration of your play session, whether you were solo or in a group. So it helps them out a lot, but in general, they said that they're still actively investigating this one, and they know it is very frustrating. They also then went on to talk about server stability and deltas in general. They acknowledged that the experience has not been ideal ever since the anniversary event went live in March. They said it is a constant battle across various different areas in the game that end up receiving deltas, but Steve said that the most important part of a game is to be able to play it, so they know that this is a big topic. And in this general realm, they did confirm that a fix was deployed last night for Australia matchmaking. I know I had a few of you out there reaching out to me about that, so they said to let them know if the experience there has improved in any way. They then moved on to talk about cheaters, cheat sanctions, cheat detection. They started with what has been done. Steve said that there was a big investment into his team that handles this side of the game to apply sanctions quicker. He said that they've applied 700% more sanctions this season compared to Year 8 Season 1. They said that one change they made is that if you encounter a Charlie 03 error message in-game, then that means that they've detected third-party software on your account. And if you uninstall that software, that should then allow you to play again, because they said they do not ban for having software installed, but instead they ban for having an advantage over other players and exploiting that advantage. They talked about how sometimes the delay time in seeing a ban go live, even once the report on social media, is because all bans are done manually. They check all of the data available on their end to be as accurate as they can be in their sanctions. They confirm that first-time offenses are going to land an account a temporary ban. It's the reason why you may see the same person back in game 1 to 2 weeks later, whereas they withhold permanent bans for repeat offenders. They wanted to shout out and confirm that the in-game report tool is not useless, contrary to many's beliefs. Steve said him and his team look at that data every single day. That said, they do want to improve the flow of the in-game reporter, as it has been there and unchanged since launch. Unfortunately, though, Yannick hit us with the reality check that cheating is never going to be fixed 100%. He said cheating is a business, and so long as there is an incentive for cheat makers to sell cheats, then it will continue to be an issue as they evolve their tools and their practices. That said, they did confirm that more improvements are coming. They're working on lag switch detection, which they said has been harder than they anticipated. They also are aware of people getting killed within the base of operations, and they say that they have some detection methods coming for that as well. And finally, Steve said that there is knowledge being shared across various Ubisoft teams. He said that he talks with the Rainbow Six Siege team quite a bit. So yeah, while it is always going to be an ongoing battle, hopefully we continue to see improvements here in this area. They then went on to talk about the reception that they've seen so far to Year 8 Season 2. Yannick stated that at least recently they've been trying very different things with each season, so they're aware that not everyone is going to appeal to every type of player. In light of that, they stated that the Dark Zone and PvP were the core focuses when they began working on this season, since those areas of the game have not had any love for a long time, but that of course included the idea to add in a PvE Dark Zone. They did confirm that the idea has resonated with people from the data that they have behind the scenes, and in light of that, they announced that the PvE Dark Zone is now going to be a permanent addition to the Division 2. They said that after this season there will continue to be a rotation of which zone has which rule sets, and they said that while the toxicity mechanic will persist, they are going to go in and tweak other season specific mechanics. Since we will no longer be in Year 8 Season 2, they're going to adjust PvP normalization because they've heard that feedback loud and clear. But yeah, the PvE DZ is here to stay. On the PvP side, they said that the investments they've made there have paid off. They said that they have a long ways to go, but their KPIs that they look at indicate that PvP is more popular than it was before this update. And in light of that, I'm very excited for this. They confirmed that the second phase of PvP balancing is going to be arriving with Year 8 Season 2.3 on August 11th, and that will notably include the attributes updates that Florin, the lead PvP designer, has been talking about in terms of changing the attributes on gear when in PvP circumstances. They're going to be adding in a PvP shooting range, or at least a PvP setting for the shooting range, which I cannot wait for. That's going to be so useful. And they said as well they're going to be taking a look at and improving Dark Zone loot, which also includes the PvE DZ. So that's coming on August 11th. They did though confirm that future updates are still coming to work on skills, status effects, and more. And we had talked about in a prior video about how it was confirmed that up to 6 different Dark Dark Zone rule sets are in development and plan to be released? Well, at least one of those is going to be coming with Year 8 Season 3. It will be called the Blackout DZ, and that is going to feature 0 stat normalization. The PvP overrides to like talents and stuff will of course still apply, but it means that full expertise levels will be involved, as well as prototype gear, including all of the advantages, the augments, everything that gives you. The Blackout DZ will feature all of it, and again, that is coming with the new season. So, great stuff. I'm so happy that PvP seems like something that we should get more frequent updates for now moving forward. But yeah, that PvP shooting range, man, can't come soon enough. Alright, the last major topic that they then touched on was prototype gear. There were a lot of prototype recalibration and optimization questions within the chat, and while they did not give details on what is happening there, they did confirm that Year 8 Season 3 is going to be the update to deliver those changes. What they did confirm is that this will be a different take. They don't just want to take the existing recal and optimization systems that exist for normal gear and apply that to prototype, but Yannick said that these updates should allow you to take better control over your prototype items, make a non-perfect item better aligned to your playstyle. He went on to acknowledge the "you should have let prototype cook longer" comments in the chat, and he says that he cannot disagree, but he also said that the reality of things will inevitably change once a system hits the live game, regardless of how much preparation they put into it, and he says that they have to be prepared to iterate and make changes. An interesting comment on that note was that Yannick shouted out somebody from the chat who said, "A prototype sucks if we cannot use it in all division content," and he said, "I agree." Finally, on this point, people were asking if this meant that any changes to escalation, tokens, all of that was coming in Year 8 Season 3, and they said it is not, but they are working on it. So, those were all the major topics. They then wrapped up with some Q&A questions from the live chat. Of course, the number one asked question was about crossplay. They said they had no updates today, but those will come as soon as they are ready. No updates on content like Survivors or the Central Park DLC either, but they said they are hard at work. Somebody asked about photo mode. They said they would like to do updates to that feature, but nothing concrete as of now. Somebody in the chat was asking for a buff to the Eagle Bearer, my beloved. But Yannick said he is not sure if it specifically will be included in this, but they are working on a greater balancing pass for the game. The overall PvE meta and the topic of Striker came up. Yannick said that he was actually reviewing data for that today. He said that 27% of all players in the Division 2 use Striker, and I assume that is on a regular basis, not like ever, because that would be far too low, but he said, point blank, it should be nerfed. That said, he noted that they of course have not pulled the trigger on doing that. He thinks there is value in having those kind of no-brainer options when it comes to builds, but what he did conclude on is saying that we need to do better to provide viable alternatives to that outlier. And finally, then they touched on a few things in terms of the Broken Rain incursion, which is arriving on August 11th. They reiterated, which we talked about from the previous dev stream, that there will be both 24-hour and 1-week completion rewards for this. Notably, though, Steve jumped in to say that that is his team's responsibility to manually grant those things, and they're going to be doing that after that first 7-day period has passed. So don't expect to see these pop into your account immediately, but once again, they will be manually granting those rewards to all eligible accounts who complete the incursion in those windows of time. They also confirmed that there is not going to be a world's first race for this incursion, and that is simply due to the fact that there have been leaks. That's right, I myself have already been sent a ton of stuff about the incursion that was scraped off of a prior PTS, and so that they said that if they were to go ahead and host a world's first race, they simply would not be able to trust the results. Yannick specifically said they do not want to repeat the situation that they had with Iron Horse back in the day. And so yeah, well, it is unfortunate that that is the situation, and they said that data mining is something that they want to try and do better on to not allow people to get this information so early. That is the reality of things for now. And finally, on the topic of the incursion, there was a question in chat on if prototype gear was going to be usable in this incursion, and they were not able to give a definitive answer on it because they said they've gone back and forth on the topic so much. So I suppose that we will see in that regard. Well, there you have it, everybody. That is your full recap for our random July dev stream, if you will. But no, I thought this was great, and I really hope that we see them continue to use this format moving forward. As they said themselves in the intro of the stream, this is a great opportunity to talk about stuff that otherwise would not make like top headline news, but between important topics like the audio bug, the way that they interpret and receive feedback behind the scenes, a lot of great stuff. So I would be very curious to hear your thoughts on anything that we talked about today, and let me know what you think think about what we've got coming up. Of course, the incursion is right around the corner, but as we heard, there is some big stuff planned for Year 8 Season 3, including prototype recalibration and optimization in some form, further PvP updates, and more. So, as I said, let me know what you're thinking. That is going to do it for me on this recap, though. Thank you all so much for coming by and watching, and until I see you next, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And